Every time you feel angry, every time someone gets under your skin, understand this: you just handed over control of your mind to someone else. That's not power, that's surrender, and it stops now. The man who masters his emotions owns the battlefield of life. You don't become untouchable by being louder. You become untouchable by becoming still inside. The world will always test you. People will provoke, challenge, insult, mock, or ignore you. But the strongest version of yourself doesn't flinch. Why? Because your emotions are not theirs to manipulate. You command your mind. You control your inner kingdom. You decide how much power someone else gets. And the truth is, they get none unless you offer it to them. Understand this truth deeply. Anger is not caused by others. It's triggered by your interpretation. Your perception creates your response. If you train your mind to see offense, you'll feel attacked. But if you train your mind to rise above, no one can pull you down. Emotional mastery is the real flex. It's not about bottling rage. It's about removing the trigger altogether. The emotionally weak react. They bark back. They retaliate. They feel the need to prove something. But every reaction is a confession that you are still ruled by outside forces. And when the outside rules your inside, you are at the mercy of chaos. If someone insults you, let them. Their words say everything about them and nothing about you. You lose nothing by walking away. You gain everything, because peace is not passive. Peace is power. The calm man walks into every room like he owns it, not because of arrogance, but because nothing in that room can shake him. Stop playing defense in life. Stop letting people dictate your emotional state. The way you respond should not depend on what others say or do. It should be rooted in who you've decided to become. And if you've decided to become powerful, you must be calm, because anger clouds the mind. It weakens focus. It destroys time. It ruins opportunity. Anger is a thief, and it takes from you every time you let it in. The key is this: observe, don't absorb. When people bring negativity, look at it like a scientist, not a sponge. Ask yourself, what's really happening here? Is this person insecure? Are they projecting? Are they baiting? Then choose your power move: silence, detachment, or purpose-driven redirection. You don't always need to speak. The most powerful people in any room are rarely the loudest. They don't waste energy. They conserve it for creation, not destruction. And that's who you must become: a creator of peace, not a reactor to chaos. Now let me be clear. This takes discipline. This takes training. This takes repetition. Emotional mastery isn't built in a moment. It's built in moments. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, or one pause at a time, one deep breath, one decision to respond instead of explode, until eventually anger becomes foreign to you, drama becomes boring, and conflict loses its grip. Train your mind like a warrior trains his weapon, not to hurt others, but to protect your peace. Practice silence when provoked. Practice laughter when insulted. Practice clarity when confused. People will wonder why they can't shake you. That's when you know you've become unshakable. And let's talk ego. Most anger is ego in disguise. Someone bruises your pride and your ego demands revenge. But you're not here to serve ego. You're here to serve purpose. Purpose has no time for petty battles. Purpose walks away from nonsense, not because it's weak, but because it's busy. So from this moment forward, don't just aim to control your anger. Aim to outgrow it. Outgrow the version of you that needs to react. Outgrow the emotional roller coaster. Outgrow the idea that you must defend your worth. You don't. Your worth isn't up for debate. It's earned, not argued. And you earn it by becoming someone who cannot be disturbed by anything or anyone. If you want real power, stop trying to win arguments. Win peace. If you want success, stop wasting energy on fools. Use it to build something meaningful. And if you want freedom, the rarest freedom of all, train yourself until no one can make you angry. That's the highest level. That's emotional liberation. That's power. And it's yours if you decide to claim it. Control begins with awareness. And without awareness, you are a puppet, pulled by the strings of your emotions, tossed by every opinion, and crushed under every slight. The moment you become aware, truly aware, you snatch the reins back from chaos. You stop reacting blindly. You start responding with precision. Awareness is the gatekeeper of power. Until you become conscious of what triggers you, what disturbs your inner state, you'll keep dancing to the rhythm of others. But when you become the observer of your own mind, the master of your inner climate, no storm can reach you. It doesn't matter who insults you, ignores you, provokes you, disrespects you. You stand still like a mountain while their noise fades like wind. You can't eliminate challenges from people, but you can eliminate their access to your emotions. You train yourself to ask, why does this bother me? What part of me is reacting? And the moment you ask, you rise. The average man feels anger like a spark hitting gasoline, instant combustion. The exceptional man feels the spark, examines it, and removes the fuel. That's mastery. That's power. That's awareness in action. You no longer live as a victim of circumstance. You start living as a force. You walk into every room with the confidence of a man who cannot be shaken because your peace is not up for auction. You protect your focus like it's treasure because it is. Your emotions are not laws, they're not commands, they are signals. And just because a signal appears doesn't mean you have to obey it. Anger flashes like a warning light, but the wise man doesn't swerve off the road. He notices, evaluates, and chooses his response. You do not obey anger. You direct it. You don't let people hand you buttons they can press at will. You remove those buttons completely. That's how you become unfazed. That's how you become untouchable. People will throw darts. That's life. But if you're not made of soft emotion, if you're made of purpose, those darts fall useless at your feet. There is no offense when you have nothing to defend. And you don't need to defend your worth. It's not in question. The only question is, will you rise above or will you sink down and engage in battles that don't matter? Because every reaction costs energy. Every moment of anger drains time from your mission. While you argue with fools, your goals wait in silence. While you fight for ego, your vision weakens. The man who cannot control his emotions cannot build anything lasting. And the man who can builds empires. The disciplined mind chooses peace every time. Not because it's weak, but because it's lethal. A calm mind is sharper than a sword. When others lose their heads, you keep yours. When others explode, you expand, you elevate. You don't lower yourself for anything or anyone, and silence, make no mistake, is not surrender. Silence is dominance. Silence is mastery, because you no longer need to respond to be powerful. You radiate strength just by not being moved. Do you know what makes people uncomfortable? A man who refuses to be triggered. A man who listens without reacting, who stands still while chaos circles him. That's unsettling, because it shows control. And control is rare. People will try to rattle you just to see if they can. Let them try. Their attempts are proof that your presence disturbs their insecurity. But when you stay grounded, you flip the power. The one who holds their emotions holds the room. You must make a decision now. Will you continue allowing small people to steal big chunks of your life? Or will you rise so high in self-command that their noise becomes irrelevant? You were not born to be easily disturbed. You were built for greatness, and greatness cannot live inside a reactive mind. You must train your thoughts like a warrior trains his sword, not to attack, but to defend your purpose. You must become the guardian of your energy. Stop wasting it on petty conflicts. Stop giving it to people who haven't earned your attention. Your peace is your power. Guard it like a throne. When you feel anger rise, see it, name it, pause, refuse to be rushed, breathe. In that moment, you are not suppressing emotion, you are dominating it. That's the difference between weakness and strength. Weakness reacts without thinking. Strength chooses every thought like a weapon, sharp and intentional. You don't lash out, you rise up, and when you rise, others fall off your radar. They shrink into background noise where they belong. This level of self-mastery is not born overnight. It is built in silence, through repetition, through battles no one sees. It is forged in moments where everything in you wants to strike back, but you choose higher. It is earned in situations where pride screams for revenge, and you walk away with a quiet smile because you already won. You won the moment you didn't let them touch your peace. That's real victory. That's what it means to become fireproof in a world full of sparks. No one can truly bother you when you realize the truth. People do not control you unless you let them. The moment you take back that power is the moment you become unstoppable. Let others live in reaction. Let them be pulled by strings. You cut every string and walk forward in strength, focused, centered, and completely unshaken. Emotions are choices, not commands. They are suggestions whispered by your mind, not orders to obey. You are not a prisoner to your feelings unless you hand them the keys. Every reaction you unleash is a decision you make. The difference between the weak and the powerful is not that one feels less, but that one chooses better. You are not forced to feel anger. You are not compelled to be bothered. You are not obligated to snap, lash out, or lose your calm. You choose to, and what you choose, you can change. The man who lives at the mercy of his emotions is a slave in disguise. He blames the world for his explosions, never realizing the detonator is in his own hand. If someone cuts you off in traffic, you feel rage because you allow it. If someone disrespects you, you boil with fury because you grant them power. But what if you didn't? What if you paused? What if you looked at every surge of emotion and reminded yourself, this is not a command, this is a test, and you can pass it? That moment of pause is where strength is built. That decision to not obey the emotional urge, that is freedom. Most people never even realize they have this power. They live like leaves in the wind, reacting to every breeze. Someone disapproves of them, and they feel shame. Someone insults them, and they feel small. Someone wins, and they feel envy. But these emotions only stick because they choose to hold them. Nothing enters your mind without your consent. Nothing stays without your permission. When you stop treating emotions like facts and start treating them like options, everything changes. You can feel anger without acting on it. You can feel hurt without collapsing. You can feel tension without turning it into rage. The man who chooses his emotions chooses his reality. While others are pulled and pushed by invisible forces, he remains anchored. He understands that the world will not always be fair, people will not always be kind, and events will not always go as planned. But none of these things are stronger than the mind he has trained. That's what this is about, training. No one is born unshakable. It is learned, it is practiced, it is earned. One decision at a time, one response at a time. One moment where you choose power over pity, discipline over drama, and peace over provocation. Make no mistake, feelings will come. Life will give you plenty of opportunities to react like everyone else. But you're not here to be like everyone else. You're here to rise. You're here to sharpen your will so precisely that even your emotions must ask permission before they enter. You're here to set a standard so high that nothing below it can pull you down. Every time you feel anger, frustration, fear, or insecurity knocking at your door, ask yourself, does this serve me? Does this elevate me? Does this emotion push me forward or drag me back? If the answer is backwards, you walk away. You don't entertain what weakens you. People will say things. People will disappoint you. People will cross lines. That's life. But your response, that's your responsibility. You don't need to explode to be strong. You don't need to match their energy to win. In fact, your greatest power lies in staying calm while they unravel, in choosing a composed mind while theirs crumbles. That's real strength, not the loud voice in the room, but the quiet one that chooses to say nothing at all because nothing needs to be said. Truth doesn't argue. Power doesn't panic. Control doesn't flinch. If you truly want to become unstoppable, you must first become untouchable. And that begins by recognizing that your emotions are not who you are. They are not your identity. They are not your master. You are not an angry person. You are not an emotional mess. You are simply untrained. But training changes everything. Discipline over emotion, again and again and again, until the storm loses its grip, until insults bounce off your armor, until disrespect rolls off your skin, until noise becomes background music to your focus. That's the level you must reach. Your mind is a tool. Use it. Don't let it use you. Every time you say, he made me mad, you give away your power. Every time you say, she upset me, you confess weakness. No one makes you anything unless you allow them. Stand in front of a mirror and own it. Say, I chose to react. I chose to be angry. I chose to give that person space in my mind. And when you own it, you can change it. That's the secret. Ownership is the first step to power, because when you know it was your decision, you also know the next one is too. So train yourself to pause. Train yourself to question the first emotional impulse. Train yourself to choose the higher thought. It may be uncomfortable at first. You may slip. You may fail. But with repetition, you will forge something rare. You will forge a mind that no one can shake, a heart that no one can poison, and a soul that no one can pull from its path. That's when you'll realize you've become what most only dream of, fully in control, emotionally bulletproof, and completely free. And when you reach that level, you don't even need to prove it. People will feel it in your presence. They will sense it in your silence. They will see it in your stillness. And you will know without saying a word that no one, not a single person alive, has the power to move you without your permission. Nobody has power unless you give it, and most people give it away without even realizing. The moment someone's words can disturb your peace, you've handed them access to your mind. The second their actions can shake your confidence, you've placed your self-worth in their hands. But here's the truth. No one has the ability to control your emotions, your decisions, or your direction unless you grant them that authority. The only way anyone can dominate your state of being is if you open the door from the inside. And once you become conscious of that fact, you can slam that door shut forever. People will test you. They'll provoke, criticize, disrespect, ignore, or try to control you, but their success depends entirely on whether you choose to respond or to rise. Every angry outburst, every defensive reaction, every moment of emotional turmoil is a sign that you gave someone else your power. They didn't take it. You handed it over, sometimes with a smile, other times with a scream. And you've done it because you haven't yet trained yourself to recognize what's truly yours and what never should have been. You were not born to be ruled by external forces. You were not designed to be emotionally hijacked by the untrained minds of others. Your mind is your fortress. Your emotions are your responsibility. And your reactions? They are your reflection, not of who others are, but of how deeply you've claimed control over yourself. When someone offends you, when they cross the line, you must understand they have not won. They only win if you descend to their level. But when you keep your composure, when you protect your inner state with unwavering discipline, that is when you remain untouchable. There is immense power in remaining unmoved, not because you don't feel, but because you've mastered the art of choosing which feelings are worth entertaining. Most people hand out emotional access like free samples, letting anyone influence their day, shift their mood, or dictate their energy. But the uncommon man chooses who gets that access. He does not react to everyone. He does not engage every challenge. He knows that his power lies in his ability to remain sovereign, unshaken by opinions, unbothered by noise, and uninterested in proving anything to anyone. You don't owe the world your reactions. You owe yourself your peace. And when you hold that standard high, you become a mirror to those who live in reaction. You expose their lack of control without saying a word. They may call it arrogance. They may call it cold. But deep down they know it's strength, because nothing rattles the weak like the presence of someone who cannot be moved. You become the example. You set the tone. You elevate the entire room by simply refusing to drop your energy. The ones who provoke you want control. They want attention. They want a reaction because that reaction confirms their power over you. But when you give them nothing, no anger, no explanation, no loss of center, you destroy their game, you break their illusion, you take back what's always been yours, your mind, your time, your emotional clarity. That is how the powerful operate. Not by domination over others, but by absolute control of self. No one earns the right to disturb your inner world unless you let them in. And most don't deserve that access. Your focus is too valuable. Your vision is too sacred. Your energy is too limited to be spent on meaningless drama. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't matter, you delay your mission. Every time you react to someone who doesn't get it, you slow your progress. It is not about being passive. It's about being precise. You don't engage because you're afraid. You don't engage because you're focused. You know what's worth your time. You know what deserves your energy, and most things don't. You must train your mind to stop needing validation, stop needing revenge, stop needing to prove your worth through confrontation. That's a trap. That's the ego in disguise, begging you to fight battles that lead nowhere. But you've evolved past that. You've reached a point where your silence is your sword, your calmness is your strike. And your presence alone is more powerful than 1,000 words spoken in anger. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them underestimate. None of it matters when you're locked into your own path. None of it touches you when your self-respect doesn't hinge on approval. That's what it means to take your power back, not by controlling others, but by refusing to let others control you. And once you do that, your life becomes yours again. Not shared with the opinions of the crowd, not shaped by the moods of others, not dragged down by distractions, but pure, focused, directed, and immovable. Every time you stay grounded, you strengthen the foundation beneath your future. Every time you resist the urge to react, you reinforce the walls of your inner empire. You become so aligned with your purpose, so committed to your growth, so secure in your identity, that nothing outside of you has the weight to move what's within. That's the goal, not just strength, but sovereignty. Not just control, but complete ownership of your emotional world. And once you arrive at that state, everything changes. Life doesn't become easier. People don't suddenly become kinder, but you become greater. And nothing can stop a person who owns themselves so completely that no one else has permission to shake them. Detached from ego, attached to purpose. The moment you release the need to defend your pride is the moment you step into unstoppable power. Ego wants applause. Ego wants validation. Ego wants to win arguments, look important, be right. But purpose doesn't care about looking right. Purpose cares about doing what's right. And when you live for something greater than yourself, the noise of the world fades. Offense rolls off your back. Insults lose their sting. And the opinions of small minds carry no weight in the direction of giants. The ego is fragile. It breaks easily. It fights hard to protect itself, and it will burn down everything just to feel secure. But purpose is steady. Purpose is solid. It does not shake when challenged. It does not retreat when questioned. It stands tall even when misunderstood. When your life is rooted in purpose, your peace becomes unshakable. Because you no longer react from ego, you respond from intention. You no longer argue to win, you move to build. You don't need to prove yourself. You already know who you are, and your actions speak that truth louder than any defense. People will try to trigger your ego. They'll try to poke holes in your identity. They'll challenge your worth, mock your path, or minimize your achievements. But if you're grounded in ego, you'll bite. You'll snap back. You'll feel the urge to fight and prove them wrong. That's when they win, because now you're playing their game. But when you detach from ego and anchor yourself in purpose, none of that touches you. You see through it. You rise above it. You operate on a level where noise becomes irrelevant. Ego wants control, but purpose gives you direction. Ego needs to be seen, but purpose needs to be fulfilled. When you operate from ego, every comment feels like a threat, every challenge like an attack. You become reactive, emotional, defensive. But when you operate from purpose, you become strategic. You become patient. You become immune to distractions. You stop needing to be liked and start needing to be effective. You stop caring who claps and start caring about what lasts. Every time you defend your ego, you waste energy that could have been used to build your future. Every time you try to prove someone wrong, you take your eyes off your mission. That's how people lose years, fighting battles that didn't need to be fought, clashing with critics who don't matter, getting lost in drama that serves no purpose. But the moment you choose purpose over pride, your path becomes clear. You realize you don't have time to be offended. You don't have time to argue. You have something to build, something to become, and that clarity gives you power no one can take. Detach from ego, and you become light. You don't carry resentment. You don't need revenge. You don't look for applause, because fulfillment becomes your reward. The man who lives through purpose walks with different energy. He's calm in chaos. He's grounded in uncertainty. He doesn't flinch when others doubt him, because he knows where he's going, and he refuses to let ego sabotage the journey. Ego always reacts. Purpose always responds. And the space between reaction and response is where maturity is born. You stop asking, how do I look? And start asking, what am I building? You stop wondering what people think, and you start focusing on what you're delivering. And the more you do that, the less anyone can bother you. You don't care about petty insults when you're too busy building something meaningful. You don't care about gossip when you're creating impact. You don't care about who's ahead or behind because your competition is with your own potential. Ego lives in comparison. Purpose lives in vision. Ego wants status. Purpose wants legacy. And when you choose legacy over pride, you elevate your life into something no insult can touch. You walk through criticism with your head high, not because of arrogance, but because your mission is too important to be slowed by noise. You become a force. Silent, steady, focused, relentless. People who are led by ego live in constant conflict. They fight to protect their identity. They chase recognition like oxygen, and when they don't get it, they collapse. But when you live from purpose, your fire doesn't come from applause, it comes from within. You wake up driven not by praise, but by potential. You move not to impress, but to impact. You don't crumble when misunderstood, because your clarity is louder than their confusion. Detach from ego, and you free yourself from emotional slavery. You stop needing everyone to see you a certain way. You stop performing. You stop defending. You just do. You build, you grow, you lead, and that kind of inner peace, that kind of self-command makes you untouchable. The world will try to provoke you, but you'll remain unmoved, not because you don't feel, but because you've chosen not to feed the ego. Purpose is not emotional. It is intentional. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you tries to pull you down. And the more you serve that purpose, the less you care about anything that doesn't serve it back. You don't chase recognition. You chase results. You don't chase perfection. You chase growth. And in that growth, you become too focused to be offended, too locked in to be distracted, too committed to be shaken. That's the freedom most people never find. They stay trapped in ego, defending an image while their future sits idle. But you are not most people. You are purpose-driven. And when purpose drives, ego steps aside. And when ego steps aside, nothing and no one can stop you. Shift from reaction to observation, because the moment you observe, you reclaim control. When you react, you are ruled. When you observe, you rule yourself. Reaction is the default setting of the undisciplined mind. It's immediate, impulsive, emotional. It fires without thinking. It fights without understanding. But observation is conscious. It sees, it pauses, it processes. It acts only when necessary and always with purpose. The difference between the average and the extraordinary is this. The average reacts, the extraordinary observes, and then decides. That decision, made with calm precision, is where true power begins. When you react, you're being pulled like a puppet. Someone says something and your strings move. Someone disrespects you and your emotions erupt. Someone disappoints you and your whole day collapses. But when you shift into the role of the observer, everything slows down. You feel the emotions rise, but you don't obey them. You witness the chaos, but you don't join it. You become a master, not a victim. You choose your response instead of being consumed by the situation. The man who observes is feared more than the one who reacts. Why? Because he cannot be read. He doesn't give away his position. He doesn't flinch when insulted. He doesn't take the bait. His mind is like still water, deep, clear, and reflective. While others thrash around in emotional storms, he remains calm, calculating every move, never wasting energy on nonsense. This is the mind that builds empires, the mind that wins without shouting, the mind that walks away with everything because it gave nothing away emotionally. Observation is not weakness, it is control in its highest form. The strongest man is not the one who fights every battle, but the one who chooses which battles are even worth his time. Most battles are traps. They're distractions meant to drag you down to the level of the reactive. Someone throws shade, someone lies, someone mocks you. So what? Let them. The observer knows that not everything deserves attention. Not every fire is worth your water. You don't attend every argument you're invited to. You don't react just because your ego wants to. You respond only when your mission demands it. Every moment you observe instead of reacting, you gather information. You understand more. You see patterns. You see weakness in others and strength in yourself. You begin to notice how quickly others give away their peace. You watch them explode, defend, argue, fall into traps, and you learn. Observation sharpens your awareness. It gives you an edge. You stop being predictable. You stop being controlled. You rise above the noise and operate with strategy. And strategy always wins over impulse. Training yourself to observe first is the gateway to mastering your emotions. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about choosing what to do with it. When anger rises, you don't deny it. You watch it. You don't become it. You analyze it. What triggered it? What belief did it hit? What story did it activate in your mind? And as you watch, the fire cools. The urgency fades. And now, in that stillness, you are free to choose your next move from power, not from panic. This shift changes everything. Conversations become more clear. Conflicts become easier to navigate. You begin to listen not just to what people say, but how they say it. You notice their fears, their projections, their insecurities. You learn what they're really trying to say behind their words. And while they try to manipulate, offend, or control you, you simply watch. And because you watch, you win. You stay centered. You don't give away your strength. And eventually, they exhaust themselves while you remain focused. The observer is not cold. He is precise. He doesn't lack emotion. He just commands it. His stillness is not emptiness. It's strategy. He understands that life is not about reacting to everything, but about responding to the things that matter. And even then, not with emotion, but with clarity. This is the discipline most people never develop. They spend their lives being pulled by every word, every glance, every trigger. But you're not here to be like most people. You're here to rise above. Start practicing now. When something angers you, don't react. Observe. When someone disrespects you, don't defend. Observe. When you feel insecure, don't collapse. Observe. Step outside of the emotion and look at it like a scientist. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this a test or a trap? What is the most powerful response I can choose in this moment? And often the answer will be silence, stillness, strategy. That's how the strong win battles without ever fighting them. With time, your mind will become conditioned to pause. That pause will become your weapon. It will give you space. It will give you leverage. It will become the shield between you and every attempt to disrupt your peace. And as that habit grows, so does your power. You'll feel less threatened, less reactive, less distracted, and more aligned, more grounded, more locked in. Because the truth is, your greatness cannot be reached through reaction. It is reached through intention. And intention begins the moment you observe rather than obey. Reaction chains you to chaos. Observation frees you into focus. One makes you weak, the other makes you unstoppable. Choose wisely and choose every day. Master the inner dialogue, because the most dangerous voice you'll ever hear is not the one shouting at you from the outside, but the one whispering from within. That voice shapes your world. It fuels your confidence or it destroys it. It either lifts you or buries you. What you repeatedly say to yourself becomes what you believe, and what you believe determines what you do. If that voice is weak, fearful, scattered, angry, or doubtful, your actions will reflect it. But when that voice is powerful, clear, disciplined, and focused, your results become unstoppable. That's why the battle is always within. And that's where it must be won. Most people lose before they begin because they've allowed their inner voice to be hijacked by fear, doubt, and past failures. They let that voice tell them, you're not good enough, you always fail, they're better than you, and they believe it without question. But what they don't realize is that voice is not truth. It's programming. It's a loop formed by past experience, old wounds, and repetition. And it can be reprogrammed. It can be rewritten. That's the power most people never claim. But the ones who do, they become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because their mind gets stronger. When you master your inner dialogue, you turn your mind into an ally instead of an enemy. You don't wait for external motivation. You generate it from within. You don't crumble under pressure. You remind yourself who you are. You don't drown in chaos. You speak calm into your thoughts until clarity returns. That's not magic. That's discipline. That's the product of thousands of moments where you chose to take control rather than let your thoughts run wild. It's not about never having negative thoughts. It's about refusing to obey them. It's about catching them, confronting them, and replacing them with something stronger. There will be days when doubt creeps in. There will be moments when fear screams louder than reason. But those are the moments that define you. That's when your inner voice matters most. You must teach it what to say in the face of adversity. You must train it to speak life, to speak courage, to speak truth even when everything feels uncertain, because the voice you trust during chaos becomes the steering wheel of your life. If it spirals, so do you. But if it holds firm, you stay on course no matter what. You don't rise by luck. You rise by design. And that design begins with language, the language you use with yourself when no one's listening. Are you speaking power or poison? Are you reinforcing limits or breaking them? Are you narrating your life as a victim or as the author? These are the questions that create transformation. Because the strongest men in the world aren't those who avoid challenges. They are those who, even in the middle of chaos, know how to command their own mind. You become what you repeatedly tell yourself. If your inner dialogue is filled with hesitation, you will hesitate. If it's full of blame, you'll stay stuck. If it's full of excuses, you'll never grow. But if it's filled with discipline, with conviction, with intention, you will rise no matter the setback. That's why you can't leave your inner world unguarded. You must patrol it daily. You must feed it with clarity, not confusion, with purpose, not pity, with action, not avoidance. This is how warriors are made, not on the battlefield, but in the silence of their own thoughts. Words create identity, and identity drives behavior. You must decide what kind of man you are, and then speak to yourself as if it were already true. Not someday, not when it's convenient, now. You speak it until it becomes real. You say, I don't break, even when you feel broken. You say, I'm focused, even when distractions scream for your attention. You say, I win, even when everything around you says otherwise. Because what you say consistently becomes what you believe, and belief fuels behavior. That's how transformation starts, from the inside out. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need applause. You need command over your mind. You need to become so focused, so disciplined in your internal speech that no failure can define you, that no person can break you, that no situation can hold you back. Because every setback is temporary, but the right mindset is forever. That mindset is not gifted. It is built, brick by brick, word by word. Every time you choose power over panic, control over chaos, clarity over confusion, you build it. Every time you redirect the voice inside from fear to focus, from doubt to drive, from weakness to strength, you sharpen it. Do not underestimate the voice you listen to the most. If it is not built with intention, it will be built by the noise of the world, and the world wants you average. The world wants you reactive. The world wants you angry, afraid, and easily distracted. But you're not here for that. You're here to build something uncommon. And that starts with being uncommon in how you think, how you speak to yourself, and how you control your inner space. Master the inner dialogue, and the outer world becomes less threatening. Challenges become training grounds. Failure becomes feedback, and success becomes inevitable. Not because you wished for it, but because you shaped your thoughts to support it. That is how greatness is born, not in public moments of glory, but in private moments of discipline. When no one is watching, when it's just you and your thoughts, and you choose to speak power until your life begins to reflect it. Silence is strength, not weakness. The loudest man in the room is often the most unsure of himself. But the one who says nothing yet commands everything is the one who holds true power. Silence is not retreat. It is restraint. It is the refusal to waste energy on what doesn't deserve your focus. It is the calm presence of a person who has nothing to prove. When you choose silence over reaction, you are not backing down. You are leveling up. Because true strength isn't measured by how fast you shout back. It's measured by how calmly you walk away from anything beneath you. People often mistake silence for submission. They think if you don't speak, you're weak. If you don't argue, you're scared. But let them think. Their opinion is not your responsibility. You know the truth. You know the power of holding your ground without making noise. Silence lets others expose themselves while you remain composed. It gives you time to observe, to analyze, to remain untouchable. You can read the room while they react. You can see motives while they show emotion. That's intelligence in motion, and it always wins in the long run. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, to defend, to shout, the one who pauses gains the upper hand. Silence is where clarity lives. It's where emotion is filtered and reaction is replaced with response. When you're silent, you're listening, you're watching, you're seeing more than what's being said. You're catching the intention behind the words. You're learning how to move next while others burn themselves out trying to be heard. This is the behavior of the disciplined, the mentally fortified, the emotionally unshakable. There is nothing to be gained from reacting to every insult. There is no reward in arguing with people who don't understand your mission. If someone disrespects you, let them. Their disrespect doesn't diminish your value. It exposes their insecurity. If someone misunderstands you, let them. You are not obligated to explain yourself to those committed to confusion. If someone provokes you, remain still. The moment you react, you've handed them your power. The moment you respond emotionally, you've given them control. But when you remain silent, composed, and unmoved, you've already won. Silence speaks volumes. It's louder than 1,000 arguments. It's sharper than any insult. When you say nothing, you say, I am in control. You say, I do not need to lower myself to be heard. You say, your energy doesn't deserve mine. That kind of control is rare, and rare things are always powerful. Silence is how the wise protect their energy. It is how the strong preserve their focus. You do not need to react to be dominant. You do not need to explain yourself to be understood. You simply need to hold your position and let your actions echo what your voice doesn't say. Every time you choose silence in the face of disrespect, you strengthen your character. Every time you refuse to argue over something that doesn't matter, you rise above. Every time you walk away instead of responding to nonsense, you grow. This is how maturity looks. This is what real strength feels like. Not in your fists, not in your volume, but in your ability to remain still while others break apart. Because your stillness is not passive, it is calculated. It's the awareness that your energy is not free, and it will not be wasted on battles that mean nothing. Even when you are right, silence can be the higher choice, because being right is not always the goal. Peace is, purpose is, power is. And often, the more you argue, the more you lose sight of what really matters. Let your silence say what your words don't need to. Let your focus stay fixed on the future, while others get tangled in petty moments. You have work to do. You have goals to accomplish. You have a life to build. That requires energy, direction, and an unbreakable grip on your emotions. It is easy to react. Anyone can do it. But to pause, to withhold, to remain calm when provoked, that takes strength. That takes discipline. That takes a decision made deep within that says, I am not for sale. My peace is not negotiable. And when you reach that point, your silence becomes a fortress. It becomes armor. It becomes a signal that you are not a product of the environment. You are the creator of it. So don't let the world convince you that silence is weakness. Weakness is needing to be seen. Weakness is having to respond. Weakness is being pulled into every conflict, every insult, every distraction. Strength is staying focused. Strength is choosing your response. Strength is not needing the last word because you already know who you are. Your silence is not empty. It is full of control. It is full of direction. It is full of power that doesn't scream but conquers. Let others waste their breath. You will save yours for what truly matters. That is how you rise. That is how you lead. That is how you win. Discipline beats disruption. Every single time. The world is filled with noise, distractions, and constant demands pulling at your attention, your time, and your emotions. But discipline is the blade that cuts through the chaos. When you live by discipline, you no longer react to life. You command it. You no longer surrender to the chaos. You rise above it. The man or woman who is disciplined becomes unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because they refuse to be shaken by it. Disruption is a test. It will come in the form of criticism, temptation, delay, and even betrayal. It will show up when you're tired, when you're vulnerable, when you're uncertain. But discipline doesn't flinch. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't look around for permission. Discipline moves when it's time to move. It keeps going when comfort whispers, take it easy. It pushes forward when circumstances say, now is not the time. Discipline does what needs to be done, whether emotions agree or not. Every champion is built on discipline. Not talent, not motivation, not luck, discipline. Because motivation fades, emotion shifts, conditions change. But discipline remains. It's the internal order you impose on a disordered world. When people are panicking, the disciplines stay composed. When others are distracted, the disciplines stay focused. When life throws setbacks, the discipline don't cry, they adapt. They keep showing up every single day with the same fire, the same intention, the same commitment to excellence. Disruption feeds on weakness. It wants your habits to slip. It wants your emotions to explode. It wants you to lose control so it can steal your time, your momentum, your power. But discipline makes you untouchable. When you're disciplined, your schedule is set before the day begins. Your standards are high, whether someone's watching or not. Your actions are chosen, not dictated by emotion, not influenced by distraction. You know what you're building, and you don't let anything pull you off course. When the world is loud, discipline keeps you grounded. When opinions fly, discipline reminds you of your values. When fear creeps in, discipline shuts it down with action. This is how you protect your vision. By becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to feel ready, who doesn't wait for motivation, who doesn't fall apart when plans get disrupted. You keep your focus fixed. You keep your pace steady. You move forward with precision because your future is too important to be left in the hands of random chaos. A disciplined mind is dangerous because once you've trained yourself to focus when others drift, to endure when others quit, to work when others sleep, you've separated yourself from the pack. You no longer compete, you dominate, not because of external force, but because of internal mastery. This is what makes you unshakable. This is how you win battles others never see. The battlefield is not out there. It's in your head, in your choices, in the way you show up when no one claps for you. Disruption will test you with delay, with noise, with drama, with failure. But discipline doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need recognition. It runs on mission. It runs on principles. It runs on vision that's too strong to be broken by circumstance. You stay focused because you know what's at stake. You don't